Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener. I am Cody Diener, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer with TNA Wrestling. I'm a professional traveling motivational speaker, traveling all across the nation, delivering my story and the lessons I've learned along the way to youth across the nation. I am also a professional father. I'm a professional because I got 4 kids. Yeah, I love being a dad. I got 4 kids, and I also love being a husband to one beautiful wife. And I'm a podcaster. This is my podcast. Welcome back. If you're coming back for part 2 with the Rest When Dead Skeleton Crew. If this is your first time, I highly suggest you go back into the archives to last week and you listen to part 1 last week with the Rest When Dead Skeleton Crew. We were in the middle of a very enlightening conversation, and we're going to continue that conversation here today. Before we talk about that, let's talk about our sponsor, who's the reason that we were even able to get together in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan to do my very first in-person interview with more than one person, with 3 people, with Crazy Steve, Jody Threat, Jake Something, all TNA wrestlers, all Rest When Dead sponsored athletes. Yes, they are the sponsor of this show, as well as all of us as professional wrestlers. You can go to restwhendead.ca, see the entire collection of top-of-the-line fitness apparel, including, like, look at the 2 t-shirts behind me, one of them being this classic stringer tee. Any person that I've seen in the gym or has purchased this stringer tee has told me it's the most comfortable, badass workout gear they've ever put on. You want to go see the entire collection, go to restwhendead.ca. Also, check them out and follow them on Instagram right now at Rest When Dead Clothing. If you do that, you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of really awesome content coming out over the next number of weeks and months ahead at Rest When Dead Clothing from myself, Jake Something, Jody Threat, Crazy Steve. We filmed a lot of really cool stuff, some really funny stuff, just some awesome stuff that will be trickling out over the coming days, weeks, and months ahead, like I said. Where? Over on the Instagram for Rest When Dead Clothing. You can also go to ceofit.ca for all your supplementary needs. You can get all kinds of top-of-the-line supplements, and they offer it at very cheap and in some cases free shipping. Where's that? Over at ceofit.ca. If you support Rest When Dead or CEO Fit, then you're not just supporting really awesome companies with top-of-the-line products, but you're supporting small business. They're both small Canadian companies that give back to the community around them. All the money that goes into these companies go back into helping small town fitness community within the area, and they also, in all instances and cases, support smaller local supplement companies as well as source their materials from local Canadian companies. So man, they're just awesome all around, and I'm proud to call them a sponsor of this show. I'm proud to call myself a Rest When Dead sponsored athlete, and proud to call the 3 people that are on the show today my friends. Like I said, go back and listen to part 1 last week and support all of my friends that you're going to be hearing today. Other ways you can support me and helping me bring this show to you for free each and every week is by going to prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Diener. Get yourself a t-shirt. Go to cameo.com/Cody Diener. Get yourself a personalized video for yourself or a loved one. Or better yet, go to patreon.com/Cody Diener right now, because you're going to get to the end of today's episode and you're going to go, man, I want to hear more. I want to hear more from the Skeleton Crew. And you can do that because there's not just 1, but 2 bonus stories. And those bonus stories can only be either watched or heard over at patreon.com/Cody Diener, including a hilarious, wicked, awesome, it popped Jody Threat so hard. She loved the story that Crazy Steve had to share. It involves, well, somebody else that's sitting at the table in the conversation that I didn't even realize. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you anymore. You just go on over. Why don't you sign up for a free trial right now at patreon.com/Cody Diener, and you can listen and watch this bonus story and see the reactions of myself, Jody, and Jake from Steve's wild story. Oh man, it's up right now over at patreon.com. patreon.com/Cody Diener. If you would like to bring me to your indie show, I'm going to tell you at the end of the show some of the places I'm going to be at, traveling around the world, hawking my merch, doing wrestling matches and seminars. Where can you see me? I'll tell you at the end of the show. But if you're an indie promoter, you want to bring me to your show, I would love to do your event this summer. I'm filling up my summer schedule right now. You can book me by hitting me up through email, bookcody@codydiener.com. That's bookcody@codydiener.com. I also have schools and places of businesses that are looking ahead to the fall, to next school year. They're running conferences. They want to do assemblies at their school, and they want a speaker. Well, you can bring me to your school. Start planning ahead. Why don't you hit me up? Go to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A, chrisgrayspeaks.com. You can learn more about what I'm offering schools and places of businesses in the speaking world. Now, let's get to part 2. We listened last week to part 1, where we just started just what I loved and just turned into this awesome conversation. We had like 2 days together in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan at CEO Fit and Rest When Dead headquarters at an awesome gym called Hustle Culture Fitness in Moose Jaw. If you are anywhere near Moose Jaw and you're a fitness enthusiast, or you're looking for a gym, just Google Hustle Culture Fitness in Moose Jaw. It's such an awesome gym. It's such an awesome place. It's run by the president of the Reaper Fitness Group, Aaron York. He's an awesome dude, and he's got a really cool gym. Head on over to my Instagram. You'll see some pictures that I've posted. This isn't just a gym that just has really top-of-the-line equipment. They have a resting room that has 2 massage chairs and 2 arcade tops. Like, they got arcade games, they got massage chairs, there's like saunas in both of the change room, like anything you can ask for in a place that just to both just relax, unwind, but after you've had a really hard, wicked, awesome workout and had a protein shake that you've purchased over at ceofit.ca, it's all right there in one place. And I was able to sit down, have this awesome conversation with Jody Threat, Jake Something, and Crazy Steve. And it turned into a conversation that, you know, I wasn't expecting, because we had fun for 2 days and we were joking and laughing and just had such good rapport with one another. But I wasn't sure if we were going to able to really have a conversation that I try to have on this show, where we talk about life lessons and our respective journeys and lessons that we've learned along the way. I wasn't sure how deep we were going to be able to go, as we were tired after 2 days of training and hanging and banging and filming content and getting stuff together for Rest When Dead. And I couldn't be more wrong. If you listened to last week's episode, you know what I'm talking about. And we're going to continue that conversation right now. So let's jump back in for this, what I wasn't sure was going to be an awesome conversation, but really ended up being so great. Let's listen to part 2 with the Rest When Dead skeleton crew, myself, Crazy Steve, Jake Something, and Jody Threat. I learned at such a young age, being in the business and going, oh, wait, this business is fucked up. There's weird people here. There's people that are like snakes. There's people that are going to try to betray me. There's like dirtbags, all those things. Yeah. That is true in life. Yeah. Those people are everywhere. Yes. And if I might have been naive to that, if I wouldn't have learned that in wrestling. So wrestling taught me that is a reality everywhere. It's just like very kind of almost unique or even crazier in wrestling somehow. Maybe
it's turned up.
It's just maybe just turned up.
Yeah. But it's highlighted, like, I would say.
Maybe highlighted or something, because it's just a weird, strange business with people wrestling in spandex. It's just weird. It brings out weird people in weird situations.
No guidelines or rules, really.
Exactly. So it's just so weird. But like because I learned that at such a young age, it taught me so much about life that I think it's.
But you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones that were able to, like,
I guess,
use
but like,
that
because you didn't have that, you know. But like, has that helped you since then? Because, like, did it change? I guess here's the simple question: did it change your life perspective, getting into wrestling and realizing those things?
I think because I've lived like a pretty full life up until that point. Like, I think I was just like equipped, and it kind of just reassured how I navigated life. If anything, it gave me a bit more of an understanding of my values. Like before, like you have values and like ways you see things, but then this like really showed tested it, and like I know who I am for real, and what I believe in, and what like how far I'll go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a huge one. That's what's bringing it to mind. Is I remember still to this day. I'm not going to name the person because it's their story. Yeah. And it's a sad one actually. But like I remember this girl. She was fairly young. Like she was like a teenager, like 18, like getting into the business the same way. And I was a little bit older. I remember like saying to her, like, whatever your value is right now in terms of your self-value and self-worth, stick to that, because you're going to meet some dirtbags in this business. And the tragedy is those dirtbags got to her, and she changed her values and did things that she wouldn't have done. Like she let the underbelly of the business got to this person, and they ended up making decisions that went against their values, and then they didn't last, and they just suffered tragedy, and then their life, whatever they wanted out of this wrestling life didn't happen because of that reason. They didn't stick to their values, and I think that's maybe even a harder road to follow for women.
I feel like it has to be, right?
Like from even we won't go into the same conversation we had last night, but like we had a conversation about this last night, but in terms of like how females have to navigate this business, and like I think that maybe it's everything I'm just saying just to say I think that it's such an important thing to have a value system, and I think it's probably even more important for women in the business. Do you think that's true?
Sure. Oh, well, it's important for everyone, truly, but it might be maybe a bit harder. Like you really need to be firm in your beliefs. Like you said, maybe for women in some realms.
Yes, and I guess that's true for life again, because I think in life,
for sure.
True. Like I'm a dad. I got 3 girls, right? So I'm trying to instill proper values to my girls, so that
even thinking about when I first started training, like I was 18, but I made it again because the way I was like raised and grew up. I made it very apparent. Don't fuck with me. I'll kill you. Like, like I mean, legit. Even there was even a time while I was training. Someone pushed me a little bit, and it was in front of everybody. And I
peacocked. Yeah, you did.
Oh, I know. I was just like, hey, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then everyone's like, oh shit, okay. And then from that point, I mean, nobody does that shit to me. Yeah. But that's gonna be easier for someone like me to do. And like maybe if I was, 5'2" and 100-pound 18-year-old girl training, maybe that would be a little harder, right? Yeah. Or even a smaller guy, like maybe it would be harder too. I don't know. It's hard for me to put myself in those shoes, but I was in a good school though. Like my trainers were awesome and respectful. I had a man and a woman trainer, both. Oh, that's sick. So that was cool, and we had a couple girls in our class, but and I mean this in the best way. Everyone was treated the exact same way. Same standards, what you need. And there was never any boundaries crossed or anything, so it was a very good environment in that aspect. So I got lucky with that.
That's
too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What school were you at?
The Ring of Honor School. And
at
the time,
true.
Yeah, at the time, Delirious and Daisy Hayes were both the trainers. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So to kind of switch gears, but to continue kind of on that train of thought of we're in wrestling school. We have our values. We're in our school, in this wrestling school. We're chasing this dream. Was everybody at this table like tunnel visioned about what their goal was, in terms of like, oh, I just want to get a contract and wrestle on TV? Because for me, in my generation, it was always just like, oh, I got to be in the WWF. Like that's the goal, and I was so tunnel vision towards that. Like in my first 10 years in wrestling was just like, okay, got to get the WWE, got to get WWE, got to get the WWE, and it was just like that was all there was. Just this idea of, oh, you could actually kind of make a modest living on the indies wasn't a thing, or oh, you could use your influence within wrestling to have other revenue streams and create other businesses out of this brand that you've created. Not a thing. Like none of that stuff ever crossed my mind. It was just like, nope, I got to get a contract and wrestle on TV. Was that the goal for everybody at the table, or was it no? I want to be involved in this crazy punk rock show and I want to create that feeling. Was that the goal, or like what was the goal?
I think like for me, I think you can say the same too. Like the WWE was, because at the time that was like the only thing really. Like I mean, WCW got bought out in what 2000, 2001, whatever.
Right.
So like I didn't start training till 2003. So WWE or WWF at the time was like that was the goal, but then TNA came aboard, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. But that being said, like I just wanted to wrestle. I want to be on a wrestling show. My first goal was like I want to wrestle in a real wrestling ring. So then I trained, and oh my God, there's a real wrestling ring. Okay, that one's down.
I think that's how I felt too, Steve.
What's next? Okay, now I want to wrestle on a show. Okay, so I've done that, but I was the first match. Now I want to go up the card till I'm the main event of this show, and so on and so forth. So it was like kind of like small goals with the overarching goal of like one day going to WWE and hopefully doing something there, but. As far as like a day-to-day thing, it was I want to get better, so when I have this show at the end of the month, it's such and so forth.
Okay, that's important. Like, because I meet a lot of young kids, in my journey speaking, that when I ask them what they want to be when they grow up, and they have this idea, right? Like, I want to be a YouTube influencer or a rapper on YouTube or on TikTok. Okay, like so that's fine. Like you don't want to but like okay, so how's that going to happen? Yeah. Well, I don't know. Whereas at least with what you're saying, Steve, and when I think about it, I think it was the same with me too. Without realizing I was the same way, it's like, well, you just create these smaller goals, these smaller obstacles that you got to jump over that. I got to learn how to bump. I got to learn how to hit the ropes, and it's like, now I got to learn how to put a match together. I got to work on a show or like work on the pre-show, and then like you're continuously climbing. Yeah, which is a nice thing about the business. Even though it's crazy, it is a thing that has set like markers for you to kind of continue on.
Yeah, you can like almost gauge your success at like stages of your career.
Yes, and then I guess maybe it's just I'm skipping all over those smaller goals, right? Because then eventually when you get to the point where like, okay, the ultimate goal is to get on TV, and I think I'm ready for that. And then you start working towards it, and then you realize, oh shit, no, I'm not. And you thought you were, and then you're not. But I think I'm just interested in the answer because everybody at this table does wrestle on television. We all wrestle with TNA Wrestling, and we're all on TV, and we've all kind of ended up in the same spot, which is really cool. Yeah. In an awesome company that wasn't a thing when I started either. But like I'm just that goal setting or those obstacles, like what was that for you? Like Jody, did you have this beeline, tunnel vision on a goal, or what was it for you?
Well, I think when it first happened, the yes moment, it was yes, I can do this, I can wrestle. So for me it was like I'm just going to wrestle in a ring in front of an audience, and then you go to wrestling school and you're like, oh shit, like this is I could actually make this a career. And then at that moment I was like, okay, I will do this. And my goal was WWE originally. Yep. And I worked towards it. I got my tryout. And it was that kind of like aligned with like how I was saying, like wrestling really helped me affirm my value system and what I see as important.
Oh, okay.
And once those sort of things happened to me, I understood that, okay, now I need to really think about like where do I want to make this money? Like, is it WWE? Because that is a certain flavor, and maybe that's not a flavor right now, at least, that I want to mess with. And so from that, it was more of like, okay, I'm going to make a living off of this. It's going to be at a high level. And it's like TNA is like literally the punk rock of pro wrestling.
Yes.
And so then my attention turned towards something that was more me and suiting to me and what I want to put across. And that I'm able to put shit across how I want to put shit across, not how an overseer wants to put shit across,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. What about you, Jake? Were you always tunnel vision towards a certain goal or WWE, or what was it?
I think both Steve and Jody kind of nailed it, like, in their own ways, but my tunnel vision was, I'm going to be a wrestler, and I'm sure, like, it's kind of hard to, like, kind of remember, like, back how it was before, but I'm sure I was like, yeah, I'm going to be WWE champion or something, something like that. But I think it was also because there probably wasn't really anything else. And just in my head, it was like, no, I mean, I want to be the man, but I want to be a wrestler. Because like as I started wrestling, just like Steve said, it'd be like, okay, I want to get on this show. Okay, I want to be the champion of this show. okay, hey, I'm the champion of this show. Now I want to carry this belt for a year. I want to do this or that. Like, so then that's how my goals kind of were. I don't think there was only a couple times where I was tunnel visioned on like WWE specifically.
Right.
That was because I ended up being fortunate enough to get a couple tryouts and where I'm like, okay, now I'm tunnel visioned on those. But I think the overall tunnel vision goal I've had has just been like, well, I want to be a pro wrestler and I want to make a living off of it. But wherever it is, I want to be the guy there though. And I think that's how it like the actual location or destination isn't always it.
Sorry, I'm just giving Jody shit because she's playing with her microphone and it was kind of making noise.
Sorry,
and I want to hear what Jake's saying. It's okay.
Picking my nail polish, guys.
I start picking her.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I think it's just like more than the location. It's like, you know, I want to be a pro wrestler, and wherever my home is, I want to be the man there.
Okay.
Know? And like, you know, it's almost like I was trying on like what felt right. Because there was definitely times in my career where WWE was like, that's the spot. And then there was definitely times in my career I'm like, no, it's not. I don't want that. And then I went to TNA. Actually, at the time, I went to Impact, and I loved it. You know, and I ventured on and tried to do other things and see how those felt too. And it's weird. It's like you know, you leave home, you're like, well, I kind of miss home too. You know, and then you kind of you build new goals and new things and. I came back. Now it's TNA, and I'm like, I want to be the man at TNA. So like, I get tunnel vision on specific goals, but those goals are ever changing. You know?
Okay.
Your consistent goal of being like the man.
Yeah.
I think that for me is like a major goal, but it's not so much like the man. It's like I want to be considered a good wrestler and not a good female wrestler, because I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, you're a great wrestler for a girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want
a little accent point.
I want everyone. Like, I don't care who you are. Everyone to be like, oh, that's a good wrestler.
Jody's a good wrestler.
Yeah. Period.
So okay, so you already started to ask because I was going towards this next question was like, well, now what? I'm very much a now what guy because I'm a goal-oriented person myself, and then once I've reached this goal or got this thing, it's always like, well, now what? Like, oh, I'm doing this character on TV. Okay, well, now what am I going to do? Or, oh, I know it's going to end soon, so we got to switch things up. Well, now what are we going to do? Or what's the next goal or next aspect of the business that I can learn? Like, I'm very much a now what person. With my goals, which is I think what you're saying, Jake. Like,
and
okay, now
it never ends, right?
And it never ends, and it's always just like
some weird
something
void,
new,
constantly filling that void.
Yeah, in a good way, and with it's like to me, it's very motivating for that. Like, and I know some people never. What I've learned, and a very important thing that I've been able to learn is at each moment of my goal setting, when I've set that goal, to learn how to be content with where you are. Because I think a lot of people that are like me, that are goal-oriented, they're very much like, oh, now what? They're never happy or they're never satisfied because it's always just a chase. For me, it is a chase, but I like the chase. Yes. So I can be happy where I am. Because for me, it's because of the happiness that I found outside of wrestling, really, because of my family and my kids. Like, I could lose everything that's related to wrestling. I could lose this second and I'd still be okay. So I'm safe there. But I've learned to be content. But I'm also, because I enjoy the chase, the now what is like fun to me. Yeah. Right? If I was to ask Jake, well, now what? It sounds to me like your answer to that is, well, now, like, I want to be the man at TNA. Like, you have this, that's an immediate goal or a goal, a thing that you've got. Your answer, Jody, is like, oh, now what is, I want to build this reputation and have respect as a wrestler, period.
That's definitely a part of it.
Is that part of it now, or
that's
do you have something else?
Part of it. That's a big part of it, and also I'm still I'm about a year into my contract, so still it is. I know they say TV wrestling is different, bro. It is very different.
When he said, "Oh, I think I'm ready," and then you get there, no.
And
it's a whole nother beast.
We've all felt that exactly.
Yeah, so I'm like, I think I'm starting to get it, but like, I understand there's still a lot I need to work on. Like, it's different.
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah.
Like, what's for we all at the table know exactly what you mean, but there's somebody out there, especially a wrestling fan, that's like, wait a minute, Jody just said it's different. How so? Like, can you give them an example so that they can go, oh, okay, I never would have thought of that before? Because I know a fan's thinking, what does she mean by that? And I know what you mean because I've lived it, but like...
So you have a camera, obviously, and you have a live audience, so you're dealing with two things. So like in the indies, it's easy. I could spill into your lap and like have the moment last as long as I needed to, or as short. I can work. Whereas I find sometimes I'm cutting certain emotions off too early, because it would have been just fine for like working a crowd, but then I didn't give it enough time for the camera to like clue into what I was doing, and so things are being missed. So I guess slowing down is the big one, but not in the way that you think. It's like slowing down differently.
Because also you're like, slow down, but then you're like, I have 7 minutes to do all of this.
Yes, and that too. You're like, what?
So slow down means something that you can't even describe.
Yeah,
because you can only feel it.
Yeah, legit.
That's neat.
Because when you're a young wrestler, everyone tells you to slow down.
You're like, what do you mean?
Try to slow down, and it's like, not that.
No.
Don't move slow. Don't go slow.
Yeah.
Do things. But legit,
that's
all we all
interesting,
kind
man.
of thought that.
Yes.
And then once you're in the depths of it, and you're like, oh, slow down. Why didn't you say that?
Yeah.
It's a light bulb moment.
Yeah, really
I'm sure you're having a lot of those light bulb moments kind of a lot, right?
Yeah. It's like, this is like now when it's all happening. Like even like last match,
I remember, Jody, your first match in TNA, and you said, can I tell you like what my match is? And I'm like, sure. So you told me, and I go, oh yeah, you can't do that. And you're like, what? And you were doing like an enhancement match where it was your moment, and you were gonna go for your finish, and that person was gonna get out of your finishing move, and like in the middle of the match, I go, you can't do that, and you're like, wait, why?
I'm like, dip.
Oh, it's like that's the dip. And I go. When Scott Hall or when Razor Ramon did the Razor's Edge for the first time, the jobber didn't like get out of his arms. Get out of it, and then he hits it later. I go, no, that's an indie thing. And you went, oh yeah, like it's like okay.
And I walked away still confused.
What the hell's that old idiot talking about? I want to take a quick timeout right now to tell you about this product. Review time. Yes, ceofit.ca review time. Let's talk about a wicked awesome supplement that you can buy right now at ceofit.ca. We're today looking at Essential Greens. It's by TC Nutrition Essential Series. It is a company out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and the flavor of these essential greens is Saskatoon berry. Now, are you someone like me that either hates certain vegetables or just at least has a hard time getting all the nutrients needed from your vegetables because you're just, you're eating, you're on the go, and the last thing you're thinking about is cooking up this extra batch of vegetables to throw in this meal prep that you got? I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like that. I get my meat, I get my potatoes, or I get my meat, I get my rice, I get my fish, and then the veggies end up becoming an afterthought sometimes in my meal prep. So I don't have to let them be an afterthought anymore. I can make sure that I get all the nutrients I need for my veggies right here from Essential Greens. Now, I've had Essential Greens products before, like veggie in scoops, and they're freaking disgusting. This Saskatoon berry flavored Essential Greens by TC Nutrition is, I'm not kidding, the best Essential Greens product I've ever tasted. It's got your phytonutrients and antioxidants. It's only sweetened with stevia. There's no sugar. It's made with all natural flavors. It's GMO free, and there's 30 servings per container. It is awesome. It is tasty, and it's loaded with all your green concentrates, your land vegetables, sea vegetables, phytonutrients, fiber blends. It's got everything in there. I mean, I'm just looking at this ingredients. Look at that. It's insane the amount of supplementary facts that are on the side of this thing from all the nutrients that you're going to be getting. So where do you get this? I'll tell you right now, you get it at ceofit.ca. Scroll through all the wicked awesome supplements that they have and make sure you get your essential greens. Get Saskatoon berry flavor specifically made right in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So if you're a Canadian listener, you're supporting a wicked awesome Canadian company. So head on over to ceofit.ca today to get your essential greens. That's ceofit.ca. But like those things, it's like that I just take that for granted because to me it's like I learned that a long time ago. But it's really cool seeing those light bulb moments. One of the things I like about producing is seeing the light bulb moments and in that moment. But I'm sure you're still having those all the time. Yeah, which is cool. And I don't think I think maybe the listeners can appreciate that because they think that everybody that's on TV is at like this level. Yeah. And that old saying like, oh, you never stop learning. That's true for everybody. Yeah. Not just you who's only been on TV for a year, but for me too. I'm beginning new situations.
How many years have you been in? I'm sorry.
25.
Jesus
How many
Christ.
years
I think I'm like 6.
That's awesome to see. The vast. How many free?
22.
22? Okay.
What about Jake? What are you at?
15. I started. My first match was 2009.
There you go. Right.
So it's just cool to see like whatever the time is.
Yep.
Still learning.
That's the beauty of wrestling. I think that's part of why I love it so much. Not that I knew that when I was a kid, but now that I'm in the business, I see like, I'm constantly learning new things. Yeah. And that is exciting to me. Yeah. I think one of the other things too about the difference between television wrestling and independent wrestling is that you're spinning so many more different plates than you are with independent wrestling.
That's a good way to say it, actually.
Yeah, because you're thinking on so many different planes of, like you said, we have 7 minutes to accomplish this. Yeah. But I need to slow down, but I also need to factor in what moments need to be slowed down. What are the important parts of this story that we are telling that I need to stop, pause, and let everybody catch up before we take off again.
And you're especially good at that stuff.
Well, I agree with that.
You know,
very much so.
And then it's also, then you have a referee who's giving you time cues, and God forbid your opponent gets hurt or something like that, and then you have to switch things up on the fly.
And all of a sudden another plate get introduced to the moment. Yeah,
you got to balance it.
Yeah, you have to balance that out
for sure. Yeah,
or you're in the match and your time gets cut, or your time gets extended.
Don't you love that? Do you know the upcoming match? 3 minutes we had to work on the fly.
Yeah.
In a multi-man.
And that's like, it seems
3
impossible.
minutes.
Yes.
It's funny that the indies, you have such a freedom, but that freedom makes it easy, right? Because again, we're talking about like time restraints or this and that. Yeah. We could do a match on the indies that's, hey, go out there 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever. In 20, 25 minutes, you can probably get the people to do whatever you want them to do with enough time over a long enough timeline. You can pull some strings. Now you got to get that same reaction in 7 minutes, or maybe 12,
right?
Or maybe 12, and this is happening, and this is happening too. Just like you're saying, you're spinning plates, but you still have to get the desired results, and it's harder to do with all the things you're juggling. No, you don't have unlimited time.
And you also have to know, and this comes with experience, but you have to know which plates are more important to spin than others. Yeah. Because as we come in, we all want advice from everybody. We all want to seem like, we're here, we're a sponge. We just want to learn. Yeah. So we ask everybody. And then the problem with that is then you try to start pleasing everybody because you don't want to insult anybody by not taking their advice. Yes. But the reality is like, everybody's advice is likely important, and there's lessons to be learned from it. But at the same time, you can only spin so many plates. So figure out the ones that are the most important. I would probably say your producer and the guy who's paying you. Those are pretty two important plates that you want to spin.
And hopefully they know what the deal is, so it makes sense to do that too.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess it's one of the reasons I called this podcast Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. But like whenever I talk about things like this, I always relate it back to life. And isn't it true that anybody listening to this right now that is maybe going through a stressful time in their life and they have multiple plates that they're spinning, oftentimes the stress is caused by you're focusing on the wrong spinning plate.
Yeah.
That plate doesn't matter. I mean, we can probably relate this to our own lives. It's like there's moments where we're like, why did I even care about that spinning plate? That didn't matter. I was putting the focus on the wrong thing, and that's why that thing got screwed up, right? And like you were just saying, Steve, like you were talking about, how does a wrestler navigate that match? They have to learn, like, even if they have all this different advice, they have to like try to sift through that and decide which thing that they're going to focus on.
Yeah.
That is a life thing.
1,000%.
That is not just a match thing.
And it's totally a trial and error thing too. Like you're like very rarely are you going to get that on the first go.
You're going to break some of those plates.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
You gotta get plastic plates, guys. Come on.
There's a life lesson in there, Jody, somewhere. I don't know what it is, but yeah, like
Find it.
Something about
plastic.
using the bumper pads and you go.
Well, I didn't get to you, Steve. The now what? Do you have like a next now what in whether it's your life or wrestling? Like, do you have a now what for someone who's been doing this for, what'd you say, 22 years?
22, yeah.
It's like I think some people are kind of like curious by like, what do you mean there's a now what? You've been doing this 22 years. Isn't it just like continue on the road? But I know that's not the type of person you are. That you're also a now what kind of person too. So what's a now what for you?
You know what? It's interesting because when you brought it up, I was like, oh no, I don't have an answer for this. But I think it's because I'm in a stage right now where I'm trying to figure out what that now what is. I can tell you the things that I enjoy. Like I'm like, don't get me wrong, titles and main event spots are definitely goals for me in as it pertains to pro wrestling. But my strength comes from storytelling wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From a storyline perspective, character perspective. So my now what is still kind of the same as what it's always been, as far as like I want to be able to tell stories and not just be thrown in like 6-8 minute matches where it's nothing, it's a throwaway match.
Yeah.
I've done that. I can do that with my eyes closed, it's fine. But I want to do more. And I think my strengths lie in a storytelling perspective, a character perspective. And so finding the ways to put myself in those opportunities, I guess, is my now what.
Okay. This is what we've actually been at this for like an hour, guys.
Oh, really?
Like over an hour.
Holy jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been good.
I know, yeah. So like I am too. I could easily do another hour, but I think this is kind of where I want to leave it, because I think this makes sense for a final question. And it just popped into my head as you were talking, Steve. Do you guys ever think about your legacy? Like, and like what you're leaving? Because you just said, Steve, like, you want to tell stories. And as you were saying that, I was like, is that how Steve's going to leave a legacy, right? Because if we think about in the business, to me anyways, the performers, the wrestlers, the athletes that leave a legacy, I remember their stories. I remember their feud.
They affected you emotionally.
They affected me emotionally through a particular story, and to me, that became their legacy. I hear in my line of business, both in the wrestling and then in the speaking, I hear that word a lot, like this idea of a legacy, and it's not something that I personally think about a lot, but I've heard that brought up a lot. And even I just said that word, and Jake, you started nodding. So I think that is something that people think about. It's not something that I am very conscious of. I'm curious if that is something that any of you are conscious of when you're.
I actually
very
recently I become conscious of it. That's why I was like nodding my head. Because I mean, I think within the last month.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was coming back to TNA, I had a lot of talks with Josh Alexander, who's the man.
My coach.
Yeah. And almost in a way, I feel like he's my coach too. Even though, but it just, talking to him. I wanted to come back to TNA anyways, but that was one of the big reasons. Just like talking to him, he wasn't trying to convince me or anything. Just talking.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it was like I just really, and this maybe even circles back to the beginning of our conversations. Like I really want to leave behind a body of work that I'm proud of, more so than money or titles or anything. Like. Because I'll wrestle until I can't walk anymore, and I'll live in a box. I don't give a shit. I just want to have a body of work I'm proud of. And me and my brother were talking within this last month, and like it kind of clicked. Like, that's my legacy. I want to leave behind is that leaving this body of work that I am proud of. So like no matter what it is, like you could pull up, like when I'm 60 or 70, pull this up. Yeah, hell yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
That's right. And then I know other people are gonna watch it. Like, oh, holy shit, Jake's something. Like maybe people had never heard of me. You know, say I stopped wrestling right now, and 20 years from now, some 18-year-old kid's like, oh, I'm gonna look up wrestling. You know, and he's like,
yo, that guy's
shit,
sick.
that was just Jake something guy. Starts looking up all my matches. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's like my body of work, my legacy. Then he starts finding my promos, and he starts finding my storylines or this or that, and like that's what my legacy is to me. And it's like I want to leave behind a body of work I'm proud of, and it's a selfish thing too, in a good way.
Yeah,
like
yeah, for sure.
I'm not a wrestler for anybody else. I didn't become a wrestler because I wanted to make anybody proud or this. I did it because I want to do that. So even if I have a match that fans don't like, I don't fucking care. I want to have the match I want to have. You know what I mean? Now, granted, more often than not, they do like it. But that's not my goal. My goal is like, oh, I want to do this because I like it. I think it's sick. I think it's good. I want to do it. That's my body of work.
That's cool.
That's my legacy.
Steve or Jody, do you think about your legacy?
I do. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure what it will be or what it will be, but I think more so outside of the ring, because yes, I want to have matches that affect people emotionally, but at the same time, when you're given 6 minutes and you're losing and you get no offense, or you're a clown.
Isn't that life sometimes?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, hey man, you're the jabroni today,
right?
Like, it's just.
So, like, that's hard to leave a legacy as far as a body of work is concerned. But I think the people that I look up to, yourself, Eric Young, Abyss, it's when it's your coworkers, but it's also people I meet at signings who say, oh, what was it like to work with Abyss? I met him in a show, and he was so nice. Or that Eric Young, I don't have a bad word to say about that man, yada, yada, yada. And they don't speak about his wrestling matches. They speak about the human.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is something that I want to leave behind. I want people to talk about me like they talk about Eric Young, like they talk about Abyss, you know, not just my coworkers, but like fans as well. I'm similar to you. Like I'm not doing wrestling for the fans. It sounds weird to say.
It does.
But that's not the case. I've never once like wrestled for the fans. I'm doing it because it's something that I love, and the fans love it as well. And that, to me, that's the magic. I'm not going out of my way to attract you, and you're not going out of your way to be my fan. It's something that happened. We were there in this moment, and now we're in it together. Yeah. And that's the magic of pro wrestling. It's not. It doesn't seem forced, right? Awesome. You know what I'm saying? Yes. You know, it's like, it's the opposite of going up to a chick at a bar who you want to sleep with. The first words that come out of my mouth are going to be bullshit. Because I'm going to say, hey, how are you? What's your name? That's not what I'm thinking.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Wrestling is not that. It's genuine. It's me coming down and doing my thing because this is what I feel. This is what's in my heart. And this is what I'm going to give the world. Whether you like it or not is completely up to you. And the fact that you do like it, that's the magic. That's the beauty of it.
That's a really hard thing to follow right there, Jody, because that hit me in the feels. Like, can you add to anything that he just said? Because that was neat. Yeah, okay.
My legacy has already begun.
Oh.
And it's different than both of you.
Okay.
It's bag chicken.
Bag chicken.
You're laughing. Yeah. So as you know, we travel a lot. Okay.
Where are you going with this?
Okay, we travel a lot.
Oh.
And the way I'm able to pack everything onto my carry-on and knapsack is all my meals are in Ziploc bags. In a collapsible cooler that I shove in my bag. So I travel coast to coast all the time. And so
that's your legacy?
I want to change my legacy now. I really want to change my legacy now.
No, listen. Okay.
I want a food legacy.
No, for real. So I was out, I guess, like, I'm going to say somewhere in, like, BC.
Okay.
And I hadn't been there in a few months. And, like, when I loop back around, some of the younger wrestlers, younger than me, were eating bag chicken. And they're like, look, Jody. And I was like, my legacy.
Yes.
So it's begun.
Hell yeah.
It's begun.
Amazing.
So let me add to that, because it's an awesome answer, but we'll take it a little bit deeper than that.
Okay.
I think part of your influence, and I'm speaking into you now, just like my, you're going to be a preacher one day, lady spoke into me, like part of your legacy is influence. That's what that is.
Nice. Okay.
Right?
Nice.
So like you you influence them in such a way, in a simple thing that you didn't even purposely even do, you influence them in a positive way that now they're incorporating that into their life.
Yeah.
So like your legacy isn't bag chicken, it's influence, right? So, but it's something as simple as bag chicken. You, because of your nature, the way you already are, you don't even have to try, you influence those people to do that, and you're going to do that in other ways too. In wrestling, is you'll have a very positive influence on multiple people, both male and female, in some way, and that's going to be attached to your legacy.
Oh, well, I hope you're right.
I know I'm right. I know I'm right. Well, this has been sweet, guys.
Yeah.
There's people that are listening to this that are like, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to Steve and Jake and Jody, and I want to learn more about them. So let's let these people know how they can support you, whether it's through your social media or if you have like an online store or Patreon or whatever. Like, you know, drop your socials, drop your whatever you want to promote. This is your chance to kind of like tell people about yourself and just like tell them about how they can get more of you. We'll start with Steve.
Yeah, real quick. You can find me on Instagram. That's probably the platform that I use the most.
Okay.
So look at TNA_crazy with 2 Z's _Steve. I should be the first one to come up. If you want to support me, restwhendead.ca. There is a awesome Crazy Steve t-shirt on there. That's the one that I want you to buy the most. If you want to support me and you would like a piece of merchandise, restwhendead.ca. Look up the Crazy Steve t-shirt. It's badass. The artwork is awesome. The artwork on the back of it is awesome.
The fit and comfort of it is amazing.
The quality of the shirt as well. Like,
it's just so good.
It's awesome. I just can't say enough about it. So that would be the best way to support me, I think, as far as a merchandise perspective is.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, Steve. I love it. Yes. Jody?
I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay.
Instagram, Twitter, at Jody Threat. Super easy. And I guess I'll do what Steve did and go to the Rest When Dead website and get the Jody Threat shirt there.
Yep.
Dodger, my dog, is also on my shirt, which
I
is
love
pretty
that.
cute.
I love that they added
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Restwhendead.ca.
I'm a big fan of Dodger, by the way.
Yeah, he loves you too, Uncle Jake.
More Jake something. Where do they go?
All my socials are at Jake_. And if
Okay.
you find one of them, you'll be able to find them all because in my bio, I've got the little link tree. So it has
Sweet.
a link to everything you need.
So smart.
I'll have my Rest When Dead stuff up in there.
Yep.
The supplements I'm going to be taking are going to be up in there. I mean, I got some beard products. Like anything you need, if you want one of my shirts, everything's going to be there. So if you find one, you'll find them all.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you guys doing this. Again, to bring us back full circle where we started, this is a very special episode because we are at the home of Rest When Dead, at the home of CEO Fit, at the home of Hustle Culture Fitness here in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Again, big thank you and shout out to Aaron and
thank you,
everybody
Aaron.
involved. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for this awesome space. Thank you, guys. I'm really glad that we got to do this. And I totally forgot until just now that we're gonna do some. In the spirit of hustle culture fitness, I'm going to include some hustle here in that I also have a Patreon. That's something else that people can do to support me. They can go to @CodyDiener and go to my Patreon, and that's where I put up bonus stories, bonus content that's only exclusive to my patrons. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to hit the stop on the free version of this podcast. We're going to thank everybody for coming and listening to this special edition of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. But then those that want to get some more and get some bonus stories from all of us, we are going to put those up at my Patreon at patreon.com/CodyDiener, and we'll hang out for just a few more minutes because I don't want this conversation to end either, but we have to because we got to all go catch a flight.
Oh, yeah.
So we are going to spend a couple more minutes kind of maybe sharing some never before heard stories from each of our careers, and we'll put that up over on my Patreon at patreon.com/CodyDiener. Big thank you, Steve, thank you, Jody, thank you, Jake. I love you all, and we are definitely going to come back to Moose Jaw again, and we're going to make sure we do it for more than 2 days because this has been too fun.
Yeah.
Deal?
Yeah.
1,000%.
Okay, thank you, guys. That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener, and part 2, the final part with the Rest When Dead skeleton crew. What did I tell you guys? I told you the conversation was going to be awesome. If you would like more awesome conversation with the Skeleton Crew, why don't you go over to patreon.com/Cody Diener and you can get two bonus stories with the Skeleton Crew. One being the hilarious story I was telling you about at the top of the show with Crazy Steve. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's hilarious. You will laugh. I guarantee it. You can listen to it for free by getting a free trial over at patreon.com/Cody Diener. It's not just a way to support me, but it's also a way to help me continue to bring this show to you for free each and every week. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get this show together. I'm a one-man band. I do all the recording, the editing, the intros, the outros, the theme song. That's me performing the theme song, by the way. That's all me, bro. And it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love because I love bringing the show to you for free each and every week. And you can just help me by supporting me over on patreon.com/Cody Diener. You can also support me by buying some merch over at prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Diener or getting yourself a personalized video from me to you or a loved one by going to cameo.com/Cody Diener. If you want to book me on your indie show, why don't you do that by going to book Cody at CodyDiener.com. That's book Cody at CodyDiener.com, or booking me for an upcoming event at either your youth group, youth center, place of business, or for school next fall. If you want to learn more about what I'm bringing to the speaking world, go to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A, chrisgrayspeaks.com. If you want to know where you can come and buy some merch from me, yes, I have some Rest When Dead merch in person. You don't even have to go to restwhendead.ca, even though you should, because you can do the entire collection. I don't bring the entire collection with me to the merch table, but I do bring some select items, and I will have them on hand this coming weekend on June 1st, Saturday, June 1st, for Rock Solid Wrestling in Collingwood, Ontario, as well as the following weekend on June 9th for Neo Wrestling in Niagara Falls. Then the following weekend, I'll be in Chicago for 2 nights of TNA tapings. We've got the Against All Odds pay-per-view and then tapings the following night on the 15th. So again, that's June 14th, 15th in Chicago, Illinois for TNA Wrestling. If you want tickets and more info on that, go to tnawrestling.com. The following weekend on June 22nd, I'll be back in Hamilton, Ontario with Top Tier Wrestling defending my Steel City Championship. And then I'll be heading the following weekend on June 28th and 29th back to Philadelphia to the EC Dub Arena, the 2300 Arena, for some more TNA Wrestling television tapings. Again, tnawrestling.com to get more info on that. And then summer hits, man. June, we got the end of June there, and then we're heading into July and August, the hot summer months, and I'm filling up my schedule. So like I said, if you would like me to bring my love of independent wrestling to you and your independent promotion, hit me up. Book Cody at CodyDiener.com. Come back next week, because I said just a few weeks ago that I was going to have a guest on the show that has rubbed shoulders, been alongside shoulder to shoulder with some of the most legendary professional wrestlers that have ever existed. And that's going to be coming. I said that episode would be coming to you, and it will be next week. You can get the entire conversation with this individual early and ad-free this weekend over on patreon.com/Cody Diener. I'm not going to spoil it, but you can just go to @Cody Diener on all my social media, which is Twitter/X, Instagram, and Facebook, and you will be learning as I will be introducing that next guest over on my social media. So follow me on there. Also, I haven't said this in a while. Can you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast? If you aren't doing that right now, please do that, whether you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get it. Can you rate it? And if you got a minute, just say a word or two in the review. It really helps the algorithm, helps that algorithm, and more people learn about this show. And if you like this show, please consider rating, reviewing, and then also subscribing so you get it downloaded to your phone or device each and every week. If you want to support me on YouTube, that'd be great as well. If you're listening to this now and you want to see the video, I record the video of each and every episode that I have. It's over on youtube.com/ Cody Diener Podcast. That's at Cody Diener Podcast. I got the videos up there. And like I said, early and ad-free, as always, on patreon.com/Cody Diener. I'm looking forward to next week's guest and for you to return to learn some more things from me and my guest. If you learn nothing else, next week you will learn the same thing that we learn each and every week on this show, and that's that wrestling is life. Is wrestling. We'll see you next week, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.